Did you know that VIESSA has a Transcendent module that can only be used on her ultimate version? And it's absolutely insane. The way it works is when you cast a skill and that skill critically hits an enemy, it creates these ice spears. Now these ice spears will fly towards those enemies, causing damage. And on impact, it causes burst damage to nearby enemies. And you start to see some pretty crazy numbers right here. 207,000, and I'm not even shooting my weapon in this gameplay. I really didn't even want to use any other skill. I'm literally using Frost Roads right now just so you guys can see how it works. But this works with every single one of your skills, your Blizzard, your Ice Shard, your Frost Roads. And if you look at this gameplay, I'm shooting a little bit here and there, but I really wanted you guys to see how those numbers are ticking, right? Look at those ticks. Look at those ticks just hitting. It's so crazy how this works, and a lot of people don't know about this because obviously the way you get this is from who? Frostwalker himself on hard, and people hate that boss. And I had to beat him over 20 times just for it to drop. I was getting every Transcendent module, and finally today it dropped, so I was able to make this video for you guys. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go to the lab because I wanna show you guys this a little bit up close and personal. So here we are, we're in the lab, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run around these enemies just so you guys can see those ice spears proccing. Watch this. So you're gonna see two numbers. You're gonna see the crits and then you're gonna see the non-crits, but we're critting for about 219,000, which is kind of crazy because you know, Frost Roads was really just something that would slow down the enemy. But when you put something like Absolute Zero on there and it transforms your Frost Roads into something that puts out damage like this, and remember, this works for all of your skills. That's something for you to keep in mind. Now remember, your skill does have to critically hit, but when it does critically hit, you should see those spears proccing. And that's what's amazing about this and why I'm kind of hooked on this now. I'm hooked on Absolute Zero, and I don't know if I'll go back to anything else when I'm mobbing. Now for bossing, I'll probably stick to Cold Bloodedness, and let me show you the builds I use for mobbing so that way you guys can see how I'm running mine in case you guys want a good template. So Absolute Zero is that Transcendent module that is absolutely amazing. If you look at what the Transcendent module description shows right here, it says when using the skill, Ice Shackle is not inflicted, but when a skill lands a critical hit, it inflicts Frostbite instead on the target. Now successfully inflicting Frostbite triggers Ice Spear. If you go over here, you can see the skill description. It says the Ice Spear that is created flies to a nearby enemy and deals damage to the hit enemy and deals burst damage to nearby enemies. On critical hit, it inflicts Frostbite on that enemy. There is a component set that matches this, that if you inflict Frostbite, it does a few things. And I'm not 100% sure I want to use it. I've been testing it. I use a different component set, and I'll show you guys in a second, but you guys can test it out yourself. But this is basically what Absolute Zero does. Now what it also does is switches every single one of your skills to singular. So if you look here, my Blizzard singular, my Cold Snap singular, and my Frost Road is singular, and obviously Frost Shards. And what does that mean? Well, it means now that you can use a singular reactor, and I'll show you the one that I'm using on this build. So we have Absolute Zero here. You do not have to raise it up all the way. You can. The difference between raising it up and not, it opens up mod slots, right? So if I'm fully rolled on this build, but on somebody who doesn't, you might want to do it because I think it drops it down to 6. Now for the builds, I do have Spear and Shield on here. This is going to give us defense, plus it gives us skill power, allows us to hit a little bit harder, have some survivability too. We have increased HP, which I recommend on almost every build in the First Descendants. That's going to give us that max HP. We have skill expansion. That's going to help us with that skill effective range. It's going to allow our skills to be in wider areas. We have time distribution, so we have that skill cooldown and max HP. Again, you definitely want to have HP on this build because you're not that tanky at all. We have emergency measures. That's going to be that skill critical hit rate and skill critical hit damage. That boosts that. Nimble fingers, because we want to keep our skills as short as possible on this type of build. It's not going to be as short as if I'm building around Cold Bloodedness, but this one is definitely pretty solid. We have skill insight for that skill critical hit rate. We have front lines for skill critical damage and skill critical hit rate. We have focus on chill, and it's going to give us that chill skill power, plus give us some skill cooldown. And then finally, we have skill critical hit damage on here to give us that critical hit damage. Now, this one, you can run whatever you want. Shock Punch is typically what most people have. It's your starter one. I was able to get this one. And then I also put a mod slot the correct mod slot on here, and then I'll have 15 extra slots on my build because of this. Now, what I do want to show you guys is the actual values, because on the left-hand side, you can see the critical hit damage says 207%, skill critical hit rate 207%, but we're more about our critical hit rate is about 50%, and I'll show you guys that right now. So first, we have 10,000 defense on this build, 13,000 health. We go to info, and you're seeing we're at about 46% skill critical hit rate, and then we have 3.69 multiplier for skill critical damage. Now, if you look right here, our skill power is at 17,000, almost 18,000, and max HP 187. So these are the numbers you should always be paying attention to, and this is why this build is pretty solid on the skill side. Now for the reactor, this is something that I was able to switch once we went back here. So I have Thunder Cage mounting because that is going to be my primary. We have chill skill power boost ratio and singular skill power boost ratio. So what's cool about this is now we're affecting all 4 of our skills. They all have the same type of skill power. And then also I get a bonus singular skill power, so it doubles up on top of that. Now for that electric skill power, I would love to get rid of that. I haven't found one just yet, but I kind of want to go for something like maybe skill duration up, maybe skill effective range, maybe skill critical hit rate probably, or skill critical hit damage. That would be something I would like to go there, but ideally, I do want to have that singular skill power boost ratio there, and then probably one or the other of the other ones. And that would probably set off this build and make it exactly how I want, because I'm going to be using this for mobbing. Now for our external components, we have Annihilation, and we're going to run a 2-piece here. So this is going to give us defense and max HP on here. But look what the 2-piece say. It gives a skill duration. And then if we go down, we have the polar set on top of that with the 2-piece, and it's going to give us chill skill power. So we're running a 2-2. Now I have max HP on this one, chill resistance. You guys can figure it out, but you definitely want that max HP. On this one, you want max HP, and then if you can find something on there that you like instead of these two, you can too. And then again, max HP on this one. So just be on the lookout for these. Sometimes you can get some that have MP on there, but again, you do want to have some HP and you do want to have some defense on this build, because that's the only way you're going to be able to survive. But I do like the 2-piece for the skill duration and the 2-piece. Now, if you guys want to try something else, some people like running the Slayer set. Remember, that's going to give you general rounds capacity 8%. The 4-piece is going to give you rounds per magazine 9%. Skill cost is going to cost you a little bit more at 15%, but that skill power is going to go up to 26%. So some people actually like running this instead. The only downside to this one that I don't like, especially on this build, is the skill cost. It makes my skills cost a little bit more, so that's why I don't run it. But yeah, you can run this one, and this is actually another good set. I do run this on some of my skill builds. But yeah, this is kind of how I run this one right here when I'm just mobbing, because I want to be able to spam my skills, and having too high of a skill cost kind of like hurts me a little bit. So that's where you guys can really change up the way you guys play. And this is how I'm going to be running my VIESSA when I'm mobbing from now on, with absolute zero over hypothermia. I just think this works a little bit better. But if you guys want to run hypothermia, you guys can see I have mine fully maxed out. But again, I feel like running absolute zero over that is probably going to be what I use for mobbing. Now for bosses, I still think cold-bloodedness is the way to go, but you guys can figure it out. Now remember, absolute zero only works on ultimate VIESSA, so something for you to keep in mind. All right guys, I'll see you guys in the next one. You guys have a good one. Hey, nothing but skills out.